The Puppet Show by Sharon Greenway. Contents: Puppets in the Park, Making Puppets, Theaters, Props, Scripts, History and Tradition of Puppets, Types of Puppets, The Puppet Play. Chapter 1. Puppets in the Park. On Saturday, Kath and Rob went with their families to the annual fair. In the park, they heard that a puppet show was starting. People were gathered around waiting to see what was behind the curtain. "Why don't we put on a puppet show for the school talent show?" asked Kath. "That's a great idea," Rob said. "We could do Little Red Riding Hood." Just then, one of the puppeteers came up to the children and gave them a flyer about a puppet workshop. Chapter 2. Making Puppets. There was already a small group of children at the workshop when Kath and Rob arrived. Ken, the puppeteer, explained that he had used lots of different types of puppets, but hand puppets were the ones he liked best. "You can make puppets out of lots of things," he said. "Some can be made out of gloves, some out of socks, others can be painted wooden spoons." Kath and Rob told Ken they wanted to do a show for the school talent show. Ken thought that was a great idea. He said he had all the materials they would need to start making their puppets today. "What puppets would you like to make?" Ken asked Rob. "The Big Bad Wolf," said Rob. Ken handed him a sock. "What puppet would you like to make?" Ken asked Kath. "Little Red Riding Hood," said Kath. Ken gave her a polystyrene ball with a hollow cardboard neck inserted into it. Rob thought about the other materials he would need to make his sock puppet. Then he began to make his wolf. First, he inserted his hand into the sock. Then he tucked a piece of the sock between his thumb and palm to create the mouth. Next, he glued on 2 buttons for eyes. He cut out 2 black triangles and glued them on for ears. He cut a piece of felt into a tongue shape and glued it into the mouth. To finish, he cut out a small white triangle and glued them on for teeth. Kath began working on her polystyrene ball. First, she glued on pieces of brown yarn for the hair. Then she made a little red hood out of material. To make Little Red Riding Hood's face, Kath glued on 2 eyes and painted a face using very thin brushes. Making the red cape wasn't difficult as Kath had thought it would be. She cut a piece of red fabric and used a rubber band to attach the neck of the cardboard tube. Now all she had to do was hold the puppet by the tube and make it move. When all the children had finished making their puppets, Ken talked about some of the things to remember when being a puppeteer. Ken listed some hints on the whiteboard. Then, using one of his hand puppets, he showed the children what he meant. "The most important thing to remember," said Ken, "is practice your play until you are happy with it, and have fun." Chapter 3. Theaters, Props, and Scripts. Ken also talked about some different types of puppet theaters. Kath and Rob decided to use the stage made out of cardboard would be best for their show. It would also cover them while they were working their puppets. First, they found a large cardboard box and turned it upside down. They drew a large rectangle and asked Ken to cut it out for them. Then they removed the back of the box so there would be enough room for them both to fit inside during the performance. Using a piece of material, they made a curtain to cover the large hole. Ken helped them attach this with strong tape. "The script is important for any play," said Ken, showing them a page for their script for Cinderella. "You need to write down what will happen in each scene of the play. You also need to list the puppets and the props you will need." Chapter 4. History and Tradition of Puppets. On the way home, Kath and Rob decided to stop at the library to borrow some books about puppets. When they got back to Kath's place, they read about the history of puppets. They were amazed to learn that puppets are the oldest type of theater. Both in India and China, claim to be the birthplace of shadow puppets. In China, shadow puppet theater was a form of popular entertainment in the busy night markets. The classic Chinese shadow puppets are made of leather. They are painted brightly and held behind a lit screen. Since the 5th century, puppeteers in Europe have performed shows using both marionettes and glove puppets. String marionettes originated in Italy, but they were soon being used throughout Europe to perform stories based on folk tales and legends. By the 18th century, Italians were watching wonderful Fantoccini puppet shows that had special effects and tricks. Almost every culture in the world has some form of puppet tradition. Today, puppets can be seen performing on television, in shopping centers, and in parks. Chapter 5, Types of Puppets. Kath and Rob also read about the many different types of puppets. String puppets or marionettes are puppets that have joints. This means they can have arms and legs that can move. They are attached by string to wooden controls, which can be held and worked from above. Glove or hand puppets are puppets that have a glove-style body with a head. They can be made from old socks, gloves, or other recycled materials. Usually only the top half of the puppet is shown, although there are some more complicated with legs and feet as well. Shadow puppets are cut-out figures that are shown behind a translucent screen. A strong light is shone from behind the puppets so that the audience can see them clearly. Small rods are attached to various parts of the puppet's body, which are used to move the puppet around. Stick or rod puppets have a stick attached to the head. They can be as simple as a wooden spoon with a face painted on it. Some are more complex with a costume, a head, or a body that can turn around. Finger puppets are small puppets that fit on 1 or 2 fingers. The great thing about finger puppets is that just one person can tell a story with several different characters. Vietnamese water puppets are worked by puppeteers standing behind a curtain of palms in a pool or pond. The puppets are attached to long bamboo rods and appear like magic from the water to flip and dance. Really big puppets do not have a special name, but they can be exciting and amazing. They are usually controlled with rods or strings. Puppeteers often have to wear puppets over their head and shoulders because they are too heavy to carry. Chapter 5, The Puppet Play. Over the next 2 weeks, Kath and Rob finished making everything they needed for their puppet play. They made all the characters, Little Red Riding Hood, the Big Bad Wolf, the Woodcutter, and Grandma. They also decorated the theater to look like the woods. Kath and Rob practiced their playhouse until they were happy with it. They tried to remember all the hints that Ken told them about performing in front of an audience. At the last day of school, the talent show came. Rob and Kath were nervous as they set up their puppet theater, but as soon as they started the play, they forgot about their nerves and enjoyed performing the puppet show. When Kath and Rob finished, everyone clapped and whistled because they had enjoyed the puppet show so much. "That was cool," Kath said to Rob as they bowed to the audience. "Yeah, but I can't wait till we get home," said Rob. "Why?" Kath said. "So we can start working on our next puppet show." "Great idea, Rob." Glossary. Index. The end.